Megha, thank you so much for joining us on Trade Finance Talks TV.
Thank you so much, Dipesh. Pleasure to be here.
So here we are in ITFA, Porto. Can you tell us a bit about you? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
So I'm Megha. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Metablocks. Metablocks is a Swiss-based metaverse, and it's powered by XTC Network.
And can you tell us a bit more about Metablocks and also the Metaverse?
Sure. So me and my co-founder Dipesh, we were earlier to entering into the metaverse world. We were actually, event organizers such as you, and we actually were doing networking events, and that was our main, goal for the association. When COVID hit us, of course, like every other networking associations, we were hit. But what we thought was, why not use this opportunity to, rather than jump from a Zoom call to Zoom call, to do something interesting. And we started making, an event solution with a 3D world. And that's where we started experimenting with it, getting feedback from our members, and really specializing on social networking, professional networking. And also we later on moved to education as well, because all this corporate world, they wanted to do extension learning. And with COVID, since it was also impacted, that's how we started experimenting. And later on we really found that there are so much more use cases rather than events and education. We got demands from corporates to set up their corporate offices and so on. So we extended our horizon from just being an events and education platform to a complete metaverse where we have our economy.
And I guess in a similar way to that there's NFTs or non-fungible tokens, and more we've seen the rise in interest for things like non-fungible tokens within the mainstream. How do you think that this and also the metaverse economy could impact trade?
Yeah, so I think we heard a lot about the promissory notes coming in, the bills of exchange being developed as an NFT, and with Metaverse having its own economy, so you could create your own economy where there's retail in place, where there are banks, where there are other institutions and users in general. So I think these kind of NFTs are actually coming in. There's a lot of then later on with economy, the purpose of trade will also come in, right? So that's where we see how we could include these kind of systems that are already actually in the real world as an extension, as an NFT, to ensure, that these kinds of trades are being, safeguarded. There is always going to be businesses, especially in the decentralized network, to have, a lot of small organizations, the SMEs, as we were talking, are actually hampered not being able to access the the finance. So how can we solve this problem through NFTs? As well, because on one hand we have these huge Gen Z billionaires that are coming in, not just millionaires, who have made money out of this NFT. Maybe they are interested in financing some other as well. So these are some of the use cases, I would say.
And you've got a real example, right? Metablocks Paris. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Sure. So what we found out, Dipesh, during our research in terms of what kind of solutions there were in the market in terms of metaverses, is a lot of them were centered through games. A lot of were based in fantasy worlds, sci-fi worlds, spaces, where you could be dragons and apes. But the recent research from McKinsey also says that when we want to go towards mass adoption, so not the crypto users, but like the whole other normal world to be using metaverses and the future of metaverses, we found out that a lot of people want to do simple things, daily things, like go to a bank, go shopping in a metaverse, or do education in the metaverse. So we found out that there's a huge, and there has to be a need of a more realistic metaverse, more familiar metaverse where people can go and relate. And also in the crypto world there is a benefit of anonymity, but with also it comes lack of trust. If you don't know who this other avatar is, how can you initiate a conversation and be 100% sure that, because for business, trust is the most important. So by being legally compliant, to have a very sound regulatory system, by keeping in place the proper KYC AML process, we are actually trying to be the trusted metaverse for commerce, for business, for retailers, to be able to come to this space and utilize this space to do so much more than what's going on right now. Because right now, if you see the metaverse space, it's filled with people having NFTs about art, music, and so on, but actual business is not happening.
Yeah.
So we want to see businesses happen and flourish, and business transactions going on, a lot of retailers coming in, a lot of new industry like the meta fashion, and so many other jobs being created. So this I would say.
And I guess we can learn then from simulated virtual scenarios around trade transactions and actually bring that into the real world as well, right?
Yeah. So you could do a lot of simulations, you can have games. For example, we have some INGO partners who are actually educating about human trafficking. They have games about these, so we could reach a larger audience, especially the Gen Z, for example, are fascinated about being in Metaverse, right? And also for other institutions, like traditional, non-traditional institutions, how can we attract these people? How can we have like a simulated environment for learning for corporates, for example, as well, for networking. So there are a lot of use cases in terms of how we could do it as well.
Very exciting. And I guess one final question, what do you think the future of the metaverse can do to benefit trade?
I think with the trade comes the global form of it. Trade happened between the countries as well, and so on. So when we talk about global, there comes this restriction of not being able to reach anywhere and everywhere, and there is an opportunity cost, but also the real financial cost as well. What Metaverse does is actually bring in people together, and whatever blockchain technology is actually enabling users, right? We could have like a social extension of it. We could have participants come in, we could interact, because that's what trade comes from, right? Like there is an interaction, there are two parties together and intermediaries coming together. So all of this can happen, and also visualization, for example, for supply chain. The entire supply chain can be visualized. There will be more understanding of the problems. There could be easy discussion rooms and workshops that we could set up in, to have such problem-solving sessions as well. So, having an ITFA conference would be great. But then it takes cost, it takes a lot of effort, it takes thousands of people to fly from their country on a corporate budget as well. There's a lot of carbon footprint that we need to take care of. So I think this is the way to move forward in terms of, a one-to-one meeting can never be replaced, I think, as a human. But how can we bring in that social connection through technology without, being able to possibly be together? Yeah, so I think that's the future for Metaverse.
Megha, it's been such an eye-opening experience. Thank you so much for joining us from Porto on Trade Finance TV.
Thank you so much, Dipesh. Pleasure.